Hello and welcome to the Southern Mountain Kitchen. Today we're making a chicken cheddar rice meal. So what we're going to do is take something that's supposed to be a side dish, which basically is a chicken flavored rice, and we're going to add to it and turn it into a complete meal by just adding a couple of chicken breasts and some seasoning and additional things. So go ahead and take your chicken, make sure you cut off all of the fat. You do not want fat in this. And what you're going to end up doing once you get all the fat off is cutting it up into smaller bite-sized pieces, which are going to go into the rice later on after we've cooked the chicken. We want to make sure that we basically are going to take this into the area of being a larger meal. The rice alone is okay. It has a chicken flavor, but it's lacking something, and for a side dish it's probably fine. But if you add the chicken to it, you've made a complete meal pretty much. I added vegetables to it when I made it, which made it really cool. So basically I added chicken, rice, and then like green beans on the side was fine. So once you have your chicken cut up, preheat your skillet, add a little bit of cooking spray to it, and put in your chicken. So what we're going to do is cook the chicken and make sure that we season it so that way it has a great taste before it even sees the rice. So once you have it in your pan, you're going to want to add at least a half a teaspoon of salt and a half teaspoon of pepper, because it's going to give it a bit of flavoring. And then I use 1.5 teaspoons of chicken seasoning, so that way we could punch the flavor a bit. And then on top of that, I added a half a teaspoon of garlic salt. This combination actually is going to make the chicken taste really great, so that way when it hits the rice, it's going to punch the flavor even more. So at this point, we are going to cook the chicken, making sure that as it cooks, we flip it to cook on both sides and incorporate all of the seasoning as we're mixing it about in the pan. So that way as it cooks, it has a great flavor. So as your chicken has cooked, as you can see in the pan, I flipped mine. You can tell when the one side is done, it turns a whitish color. You know that means it is cooking. You want to flip it back and forth until you don't have any pink bits. You want to make sure it's cooked thoroughly, which is going to take a few minutes. But the point being is you want to make sure this is cooked before it ever hits the rice. We want this completely done. And as you can see in my pan, mine has pretty much reached that point. It is ready to be taken off of the burner, and we're going to get ready to make the rice. So in a pot, which I would say you need at least a medium to large pot, you're going to actually add 2 cups of water. And I added warm water to begin with, which helps. I added 1 tablespoon of chicken bouillon, now as my bouillon is sitting there, it's actually dissolving in the water, which is kind of what you want it to do. You don't want it to clump together, so I gave it a second to actually do its thing. To this, I added 2 tablespoons of butter or margarine. And what you're going to want to do is bring this water to a boil and make sure your margarine is melted. As your butter or margarine is in the pan and the water has come up in temperature, stir it around to make sure it breaks up. And then to this, you are going to add 1 teaspoon of Italian seasoning. Then you're going to dump in the package that is the original mix from the manufacturer, which has the seasoning and the rice pasta inside of it. And then you're going to return your chicken to the pot, so that way it's going into the mix to actually cook with the rice as it's actually boiling. So when you get this back up to a boiling temperature, you want to cover it and then let it cook for at least 7 minutes. That's going to be time for everything that came out of the mix to cook through. So as you can see in my pot, it's actually starting to bubble around the edges, which means it's getting ready to boil again. Wait until it's boiling and you go to put the lid on before you start the 7 minutes. If you have to stir it up a bit to mix the ingredients through, go for it. The more you mix it through, the better. And now you can see my pot is boiling. So once you get up to a decent boil, you're going to want to reduce the heat down to at least medium high instead of high. You don't want to burn any of the mix that came out of the packet, because it's like a rice pasta mix. It's kind of a combination thing, and you don't want it to totally stick to the bottom of your pan. So as you're getting ready to put your lid on, you can stir it one more time. And during the 7 minutes, it probably wouldn't hurt for you to stir it like every 2 to 3 minutes, just to make sure nothing is actually sticking to the bottom. And once you get to the end of your 7 minutes, it's going to look a lot like this. Everything's incorporated. The water was taken in by the rice pasta mix, and everything is looking pretty well cooked. So find a serving bowl or platter or whatever you want to put this on. Transfer your chicken and rice pasta mix into this. And once you get it completely out of the pan, just smooth it around where everything seems to be kind of distributed. And then we're going to get ready to add something on top to give it another layer. We're going to add cheese. So we're going to start off with a half a cup of mild cheddar cheese. And then once we get that in there, we're going to add a half a cup of mozzarella cheese. The cool thing about this is the cheese gives us another layer of taste. So we basically taken something that was kind of a bland side and made it a meal with chicken and cheese and seasonings that tastes really cool. Now, once you get your cheese in place, this will melt on its own, probably just from the heat of the dish. However, I put mine in under a broiler for a few minutes to try to give it a little bit more of a melty thing going on. And this is what you get when you're done, a cheesy chicken meal that is amazing. I hope you liked this video, and if you did, please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you next time.